All right, everybody, it's Thursday, and you know what that means. This week in streaming, my boy Lon Harris is here to break down Disney's blowout quarter. As you know, I made a J trade on Disney. I am very long Disney, and my lord, this was very confirming for me that I am going to be a great public market equities investor. We do a deep dive on all the studios and their streaming services to try and figure out the box office versus day and date, and then we talk about the movie Prey, which is a Predator story that is absolutely fantastic, that was released directly on Hulu. We then go into the DC film strategy, Ezra Miller and the controversies there, and then how maybe WBD, Warner Brothers Discovery, should handle all the mashugana going on at DC. We have a lot of different ideas. It's a great conversation. And then Molly drops an interview with a company that makes a disappearing tattoo ink. It is going to be a great show. Stick with us.
This Week in Startups is brought to you by MicroAcquire, the startup acquisition marketplace. Start the right acquisition conversations at your own pace. Get free and instant access to over 100,000 trusted buyers with total anonymity. Say goodbye to brokers and meet your ideal buyer today. Go to try.microacquire.com/twist. Vanta. Compliance and security shouldn't be a deal breaker for startups to win new business. Vanta makes it easy for companies to get a SOC 2 report fast. Twist listeners can get $1,000 off at vanta.com/twist. And OpenPhone. As a startup founder, a lot of mistakes are easy to roll back, but using your personal cell phone number as your company number isn't one of them. OpenPhone makes it easy to get business phone numbers for you and your team, right on top of your existing devices. Visit openphone.com/twist to get 20% off your first 6 months.
All right, everybody, it's Thursday, and we're having a great week here, bringing in a bunch of heavy hitters to join me while Molly's enjoying her well-earned vacation. It's Thursday, so of course we'd love to have Lon Harris with us. You know him as the podcast host of Binge Boys, and he's now writing for Some More News. You can search for that on YouTube. It's kind of like The Daily Show, but maybe even for a younger generation. Welcome back to the program, Lon.
Hey, everybody. Thanks.
Nice to see you, buddy.
Always great to be here.
Always great to have you.
What a pleasure.
Follow at Lons on the Twitter, LONS. He got there early too. We were having fun on
You came
Twitter
back from South
days.
by Southwest, I believe, and we're like,
yes,
everybody's got to try this new thing. They were playing games at South by Southwest. Everybody's like meeting up, and it was like a scavenger hunt thing.
Yeah.
And I was watching from afar, like, this seems fun. I'd like to try that one day. And then they opened it up for everybody, and I jumped right in.
It was one of the specific growth techniques for startups for a decade, which was South by Southwest coming. You'll have all these geeks, launch it, the week before South by, get the viral coefficient going that week, and then Foursquare did it. A bunch of people tried to do it, but very rarely did it work.
Every year you'd go to South by Southwest Tech, and there would be like 5 apps trying to do the Twitter thing of like, get everybody to use it here, and then they'll go home and tell all their friends about it. And I don't know if it ever worked again.
Yeah. So we've got a great docket today. Disney earnings came out, and that's great for us to talk about because you're so deep in the content side. I'm deep in the money side, and all that comes together on an earnings call. We have the Prey movie coming out for Hulu, which you and I both saw, and we both have strong feelings about, and a bunch of other scattered news. I am wondering what your thoughts are. I hate to bring up politics on a politics show, but in relation to media, it did seem like, putting politics aside, that Trump is the rating bonanza of all bonanzas in news media, and also subscription revenue. And this goes for both sides, Fox and for MSNBC and everybody in between. When Trump does something, or something happens to Trump, as in this case, my Lord, does it take over the media space? I've never heard so many newscasters, journalists, pundits speak about so little actual information for so many hours.
Yeah, everybody was doing that CNN, like, stay right here. We've got all the latest. They're like, there's nothing else. Nothing else is going to happen.
There's literally nothing.
For days, maybe weeks. That's the law does not move at the pace of cable news.
It does not have the story arc required to keep people glued to television. And I realized you can get basically every single dimension of this story with this seizure or raid or whatever we want to call it. We literally have so little information that we've now come down to looking at semantics. Was it a raid? Was it a search? And like that has to be a 10-minute discussion. Then we get to, well, Hillary's emails or this Podesta, or I don't know, whoever's, had documents. There's another guy who was putting documents in his pants from the National Archive.
Right. There's all kinds of stories.
And it's like, there's like 5 stories about people stealing confidential information or classified documents. All 5 of them wind up with people getting, I wouldn't say a wrist slap, but essentially a wrist slap. Nobody's doing jail time, basically. But my Lord, what does this say about the media? Is it just because it's August, or am I just waking up to the fact that the media has literally nothing to say?
It's not only that the media has nothing to say. I think it's that the incentive structure for news is not anything other than zero in and obsess about these things that people are fixated on. Whether or not that's the most interesting thing or compelling thing, or there used to be, it was always a business. And I mean, you could go back to like the Edward R. Murrow, Walter Cronkite days, and there were people looking at the numbers and trying to sell, they had Philip Morris on the phone, like, we got to sell more smokes or whatever. But it was a balance. It was, okay, here's what the news guys want to do that's important that the public needs to know. And then here's what the money guys want. And we find a way to like bring those worlds together. If you remember that movie, Good Night and Good Luck, there's a whole segment where Edward R. Murrow has to do like the cheesy Liberace interview because that pays for the hard-hitting investigative stuff.
Right.
What we've done is we've lost the hard-hitting investigative stuff, and we're just doing 24/7 Liberace interviews. Like, because the money guys took over, and there are no more Edward R. Murrows who are looking out for the public right to know. And Trump, it always takes me back to, you remember Private Parts? One of the early scenes in Private Parts when Allison Janney or whatever is like, why do we even pay this guy? Why we should just kick him out of the building? And they're like, he gets crazy ratings because the people who love him, they listen every day. And the people who hate him listen even more than the people who love him because they're so fixated on how much they hate him. And as much as I hate Donald Trump, personally, I have to admit that that's true. I hate him with a passion, and I will listen to things about him in a way that I wouldn't for a Ron DeSantis or a Marco Rubio or a Ted Cruz.
Intellectually honest enough to say that, like, there's an element of like, hey, would love to see this guy finally get his comeuppance for all the horrible stuff he's done.
And he's a horrible man, but I think it's impossible to overlook the fact that he is a showman. He's a horrible man in a very compelling, entertaining way. And he's funny. I mean, he's not always intentional.
He could have been a comedian. He could have been a stand-up. I mean, when he does those rallies, it's one-liners. And I don't think people are writing that for him. I think he just listens to the audience reactions. And when he says a keyword, if the volume goes up, he just says the same keyword 3 times. And it just, FBI. Okay. FBI. And they're like, oh, don't we know what's going on with the deep state? Oh,
he's been doing this for decades. He has a genuine skill at working a crowd, getting people going. He's got that comic timing like a showman does. And when you put him next to Joe Biden, a much better politician, a much more rational, sane individual, but can't compete in terms of stage
with that level of timing and shtick, reading the audience. No.
Right.
The interesting thing, I think, is the third circle, which you bring up, which is, you got the circle of the hard-hitting news team that wants to, do this for the right reasons. And then you got the advertising money machine, the corporate interests. And then you also have the audience is another circle. You put those 3 circles over each other, you kind of get this little Venn diagram. You can start to understand what's going on. I really think people should opt out of watching any cable news. I mean, if you put it on for 10 minutes just to catch up, then turn it off, because I think that this is such a major part of the problem today. And obviously social media is a nice dystopian dance partner for the cable news because they then whip each other into a frenzy.
Right, exactly.
But there's no new information being gleaned here. And, the justice system kind of works its stuff out. But there are a contingent of people who I believe love this. This is... And we were talking before we got on air here a little bit about this. There are people who this week having Trump reemerge into the headlines where he kind of was dormant, right? Like they stopped covering his rallies. And remember they used to always be live with the rallies?
Right.
So I guess the left didn't want to cover them to give him promotion, or there were too many of them. But also at the right, it seems like Fox stopped doing the live coverage of them too.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not an expert on this specific stuff, and I don't spend that much time on the right-wing web, but like there definitely seemed like there was this moment where, like, after Twitter banned him and he was sort of not top of mind every day, even the Republican Party seemed like maybe this is our opportunity to like grow some of these other people's profiles and maybe start to move on. And I think the base of the Republican Party has now made it absolutely clear that that's not where their heads are at. They're not interested in Ron DeSantis. They're not interested in these new guys. They love who they love. They want Trump back. They think he won last time. They believe he will win again. And like, that's what they want. They're being very clear about what they want.
I'm out. It's just not good for mental health to like, this stuff, all because it's the first time it's happening. Oh my God, it's the first raid ever on a president. We can't, the monumentous nature of this. Like, I was listening to Fox and Rachel Maddow.
They even broke into his safe.
They broke into his safe. I'm like, well, that's kind of what happens.
That's the first place they would go. Right?
Kind of, they work backwards from the safe, don't they? But Trump knows that. Yeah. And he puts that in his statement. He's like, they even went into my beautiful safe.
That beautiful safe.
Yeah. He front-ran it. He's like, I know what's going to get the most clicks here. The safe, right? Yeah. So now you have like, I think they're all in cahoots. The media, social media companies, everybody. Because you know what's happening next. People are going to be like, you know what? Oh, we got to let Trump back on. He's got to be able to air his side of this. And all of a sudden the Trump bans are going to lift, 2 years later. Yeah. And then the media cycle starts again.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, they're totally incentivized. Even the people in the media who realize we're opening the door to some very dangerous ideas and political movements, and we may not be able to put this back in Pandora's box. Yep. Even those people are like, the lure of the eyeballs and the money from a return of Trump, it's just too sweet to pass up. He's a ratings bonanza, and we've always known it the whole time. Since 2015, we've been having this conversation.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing.
They can't do a real credible job of reporting on him because they're so desperate for more of him.
I'm opting out. I have to opt out of it because it's just too all-encompassing.
I mean, we're not supposed to watch news 24/7. No. It's the old idea was right. Like the idea in like the 50s, like you wake up and you get the paper and you spend 30 minutes drinking your coffee, browsing through, and then you're on with your day. That's the news. Now it's time to go to work. I think that was probably the right idea.
MicroAcquire is a startup acquisition marketplace. I've always wondered why this idea did not exist, and now it exists. It cuts out everyone in the middle. That means they help startups get acquired directly and efficiently. If you're a founder and you're looking to sell, and there's nothing wrong with selling, sometimes you got to secure the bag. Well, MicroAcquire is free for you. It's free, it's private, and there's nobody in the middle. To date, MicroAcquire has helped hundreds of startups. Yes, they've helped hundreds of startups get acquired. I kid you not. And they facilitated hundreds of millions of dollars in deal volume. Their platform has over 120,000 buyers who spend $390 a year for access. That's a big number for a subscription, but not if you're an acquirer spending millions to tens of millions to hundreds of millions to billions of dollars buying technology companies. Thousands of startups are currently listed for sale, so if you are a buyer, you're probably missing some great opportunities there. I encourage you to go become a subscriber like I am. MicroAcquire helps startups find buyers. It's as simple as that. Buyers can browse listings for free. And the platform is totally free for sellers. Sign up for premium for $390 a year to get access to all the deal info at try.microacquire.com/twist. Once again, try.microacquire.com/twist. Great job to the MicroAcquire team. Well, I mean, this is a good jump off to Prey then. Yes. This, I thought, was an excellent movie. Prey is a Predator prequel, and it's set in
early 1700s, 18th century, I guess somewhere in, it's like close enough to modern day Quebec that there are French trappers there.
Right. But we had French trappers also in what is the United States now, right?
Yeah. It's somewhere in the northern U.S.,
Now, I don't know what this film cost, but one of the best sci-fi films I've seen in the last 10 years. I thought it was great.
Yeah, Dan Trachtenberg directed, totally killed it. He did 10
Who
Cloverfield Lane.
Trachtenberg?
Dan Trachtenberg did 10 Cloverfield Lane, which was really good. He's also directed that really good Wyatt Russell episode of Black Mirror, one of the early classic Black Mirrors. I remember he used to do he was a YouTube guy. So I remember him from that day. He directed this really great Portal fan film. Remember the game Portal?
Sure.
Where you had the gun, he directed a fan film for Portal that looked super pro. And I remember when that came out, everybody was like, oh, this guy's going to become like a Hollywood guy.
It really is a great path to becoming a director or an actor, is just to start on YouTube, but make something high quality, but that's short, right?
And it was in like a familiar, went very viral because it was like, oh, somebody made a Portal. I don't even think he had the rights. I think he just did it.
No, I mean, that's the great, punk rock thing about this. Somebody had done actually Predator versus Batman, I remember in the early days.
Yes, there was a Batman short where Joker lures him into the alley and then he's attacked by aliens and predators, I believe.
Oh, was that it? It was aliens versus Batman.
It was both. It was an alien first and then a predator or something. I think they had both
all you need is a Sith Lord or a Jedi, and you've got the trifecta there of IP. So I guess now I wonder who owns the rights to the Predator franchise. I think that was Fox,
so
which is bought by Disney.
Disney got it from Fox when they bought Fox's assets.
I think that this is a sleeper IP. I think there needs to be a Predator anthology series where they do Predators in 90-minute, 1-hour segments, just going to different scenarios. It doesn't even have to be movies, because this showed how wonderfully interesting the Predators are. They're, for people who don't understand, I think what I really love about these characters is they are passionate about something.
Yeah.
Fighting, hunting.
They love hunting, yeah.
They like the hunt. And they revel in being injured and getting their asses kicked. That's what they live for. They live to mix it up. And they're singular in that love and joy. And they respect things that are good at fighting. Yeah. And they're not interested in anything that is not a threat. It's a very pure, great premise for me that this species exist in this framework. I love it.
Yeah. The original Predator, one of the great action movies of all time, and one of the great action movie concepts. It's just such a simple, clean, compelling story and idea about your following. It would have been an interesting movie if the Predator didn't show up. Like, you already had this interesting group of guys, this action story that's ongoing. You don't even need the Predator. It just takes it to the next level. And I think that's what Prey captures so well, is it's also a very compelling story about Naru and her brother and her desire to be a warrior, even though the tribe's not interested in her journey. And I think it was already a cool movie before the Predator showed up. And that's what's so great. And that you could capture, I think, in an anthology or something, the end of Predator 2. I don't know if you remember Predator 2 that well, with Danny Glover.
I do. That was when they were in downtown LA, right?
They're in like a dystopian LA in the midst of like a huge cartel war. And that's where the Predator drops in. But the very last scene, after Danny Glover has defeated the Predator, a group of Predators lands, and they basically salute him. Like, we respect you. You're a warrior like we are. And he sees relics, and that the Predators have a collection of weapons from human history that they've collected from all the people, including the revolver that we see in Prey is a callback to Predator 2. They have that gun that she's using that she got from the French guys.
Wow, that makes so much sense.
So that's what, to me, the promise has always been out there of we're going to get a series of Predators throughout history. That's where they acquired this whole collection of human weapons, and we've never quite seen it. And I think now we're perfectly set up.
Now, there was a Predator movie that had the premise. It had a really good cast too. It had Adrian Brody in it.
Right, your Predators. This was the
Predators,
2010. This was the 2010 one Robert Rodriguez produced.
I really enjoyed that one as well. Walter Goggins is in it.
That movie. Yeah, Walton Goggins. You got Adrian Brody. You've got
Hope for Grace.
Right. Who else is there? A lot? Danny Trejo's in there. A lot of good people.
That guy. What's his name?
And they've got it's a fun premise where they
Mahershala Ali. God, I'm butchering his name. Mahershala. I love that actor too. Like, that film to me had also a great premise. Spoiler alert: they drop warriors onto a planet.
Yeah, various human warriors from all sorts of different. Like, you get a mercenary, you get a cartel guy, you get a serial killer,
Yakuza, serial killer.
Yeah.
Like a Navy SEAL kind of thing. And they're all like, why are we all here?
Alice Braga's a Mossad sniper. She's like an Israeli soldier, I think.
So great. Yeah. I mean, that one is just so fantastic because they're like, let's make a dream team of American murderers,
or
not
like
American, of
global, human
murderer.
killers, and then it's like a game preserve for predators. And
now,
Lawrence Fishburne is there too. They've got like he's the survivor who's been hiding out.
Oh yes, I'm not gonna say it's perfect, but what I liked about it is they had their own Disneyland, and I have to figure out how they will take this and make it into an attraction at a Disney theme park. Now that they own this, a Predator paintball game experience, like they're doing that thing with Star Wars where you go stay on a cruise ship.
Yeah, the Galactic Cruiser or whatever.
Now that I'm a shareholder, I have a lot, you understand, J Trading, I have a lot of influence at Disney. My Disney trade is doing very well.
Chapek on the phone.
So I got a call with Chapek next week because I may increase my position here, and I want to let him know what my thoughts were. You know, he talks to the big shareholders.
Sure.
So Chapek and what's what I'm going to pitch him on is, hey, let's get a little bit of a more adult fare. You go to Disney, Epcot, whatever. You get dropped into basically, Predator, and you have to fight your way out, and you have to fight predators. And it's like full contact stuff, like you do one where it's like paintball, you do another one where it's like mixed martial arts, whatever. It just becomes like a really cool
I think
concept,
if you could figure out an immersive Predator installation, people would be into it. I mean, the conventional wisdom with this franchise, and I think the reason this went directly to streaming.
Okay, let's talk about the business of it. Yeah, start there.
Traditionally, we haven't thought of Predator. It's a well-known franchise among action and sci-fi fans, but it's never been a blockbuster franchise in the way Terminator is or Jurassic Park. It's not on that level. And so I think that's probably what held Disney back. But I personally feel like this movie would have played gangbusters in a theater.
I would have gone.
Word of mouth, I think, would have been very strong. And I feel like we're in this weird time theatrically now where the pandemic, being out of theaters for many years, it's opened people up a little bit more to seeing different kinds of stuff. And it's brought back this real desire for throwback, like non-ironic, like meat and potatoes, like Top Gun Maverick, Elvis style movies.
Give me like a nice tent pole. Give me a nice 1980s, like, Rain Man or Top Gun. Like, let's just go with something simple, storytelling, great performances, a great aesthetic, maybe some great dialogue, maybe some, realistic action sequences that are not, Transformers so blurry I can't understand them. And I don't need you to make it into a giant, social justice. I don't need a big complicated message. I'm
not saying the woke stuff. I'm just saying like I feel like so many movies are aimed at it's trying to serve everybody. It's like five quadrants at once. It's a heist, it's a caper, it's a comedy, it's action, it's this, it's that. We've got The Rock is in it, and Kevin Hart and Ryan Reynolds, and we're packing, and it's like every movie's trying to be Fast and Furious, and I like Fast and Furious, but I think that we are starting to see people are turning back to more classic, conventional kind of movie fare that's not so tongue-in-cheek, that's not so self-aware and post-ironic. And I think
or perhaps even cynical,
Right, exactly. Cynical is the right word for it. And I think, that's what Top Gun Maverick hit so well, which is why I think people are going back 4 or 5 times. And I
want to see it again. I was talking to Jeffrey Katzenberg, to name drop.
Oh my.
And I said, Jeff, anytime I see him, I say, tell me about films, because he worked at Paramount with Bob Evans, like he was there Gulf Western days. Yeah. And so we're talking, and he's always like, wow, you really understand a lot of film. Like, why aren't you in the movie industry? I was like, it's always my backup career. I said, what do you like? What do you like? He's like, I've seen Top Gun 3 times in theaters. I'm like, it's that good? He's like, it's a perfect film. And I was like, okay, so we were at some social. I was like, hey, after this, you want to go see Top Gun 4 times? He's like, I would. And I said, I can, but I went to see it. Amazing.
Yeah, it's great.
And I think the thing I've missed about filmmaking, and I don't want to make this about the woke social justice stuff, but that keeps coming up. And I think one of the reasons it's coming up is, well, one, I guess it's a great for clicks, like we talked about. But I do think people were overthinking movies. I came from an era, you came from an era, where there was an auteur, whether it was Tarantino, whether it was Kubrick, whether it was Scorsese, who's the woman who did Hurt Locker. Love her film, Strange. Catherine Bigelow. Like, Bigelow has a point of view. She states her point of view. It's her point of view. There's no doubt that's a Catherine Bigelow film, right? And you can identify it as such. And I think there's like some committee or overthinking, like, oh, we have to, like you're saying, appease this audience, or we have to hit this note, or this is what's in the zeitgeist right now. And I just want to see a film that's free of that. I felt this film was free of that until I went on social media.
Yeah.
So
there are definitely movies where, like, there's a movie that's on Peacock right now called They/Them that John Logan did, who wrote Gladiator. He wrote and directed this.
My favorite film. Yeah.
Kevin Bacon is in it. Kevin Bacon plays a counselor at a gay conversion camp, and it's a slasher movie. So all the counselors start getting one by one. Somebody's picking people off at this gay conversion camp in the woods. And that is a movie that feels very specifically like they took these social issues and these things people are discussing a lot on Twitter about gender and, about, acceptance and tolerance, all of these various topics. And they put it in the context of the horror movie. So that happens. But I think so often terms like woke or they're putting in social issues, it just means the star of this action movie happens to be a lady. Or happens to be an indigenous woman, and that's not woke or what. That's just a movie, and the character in the movie is from a group of people. That's not woke. That's just life.
Exactly. I think people were stretching to make some connection here that wasn't there. We all know that if you were to make a list of the top 25 warriors, people you would not want to get in one-on-one combat with, Native American, on a horse, with bows and arrows, like these were fierce warriors.
Somebody pointed this out. I think it was an actual a retired Marine I was talking to on social media. They were pointing out if you started your military training at age 5 or 10, and someone else started at 17, it does. Like a lot of other factors aren't going to matter. You're going to beat up that person. Like you're going to just know a lot more and be a lot more skilled and have a lot more hours of practice. So somebody like Naru, the star of Prey, who's been in the woods her whole life learning how to throw that axe.
Dealing with bears and mountain lions and like every
Dutch
predator you can imagine.
Schwarzenegger from the original Predator, he probably grew up in the suburbs. He was playing, T-ball during that time.
It's a pretty great observation. It's really important for founders to understand what SOC 2 compliance is. Basically, if you're a SaaS or services company that stores customer data in the cloud, you need to be SOC 2 verified from a third party so you can close major customers. It's really simple. If you're not SOC 2 compliant, you can't close big deals. But SOC 2 verification can be brutal. The process is tedious, it's time consuming, and it can be very, very expensive. But now there's Vanta. Vanta's software makes it much easier to get and renew your SOC 2. Vanta customers, on average, Vanta customers are SOC 2 compliant in just 2 to 4 weeks. Compare that with 3 to 5 months without Vanta. And they partner with over 24 audit firms who have been trained to file SOC 2 reports directly within Vanta. And congratulations to our friend Christina and the team over at Vanta for raising their $110 million Series B. What an amazing company. I was able to put a little bet in there. I invested in the company myself. Here's the best part. Vanta's going to give you $1,000 off. Get $1,000 off at vanta.com/twist. That's Vanta, VANTA.com/twist for $1,000 off your SOC 2. All right. And so we'll do a little spoiler alert here, but
I mean, it's a Predator movie. You know it.
It's a Predator movie. So obviously there's going to be a fight at the end. And as in all the other Predator movies, the Predator will be defeated by one human, but all the other humans, in all likelihood, are not going to fare as well.
It's a group of humans, and then they all get picked off, and then there's one survivor in the end, the Dutch.
Spoiler alert for the slasher films, that's how those work too.
There's always a final lone survivor, and they're the hero.
Sometimes two. I just rewatched Jaws.
Right.
I literally rewatched Jaws, and it's just that great scene when
Brody and Hooper both get out of that one alive. Yeah.
Well, when he comes up from this, his scuba diving, and he looks over and he sees the police commissioner or whatever, and they laugh. And
Brody.
Yeah, Brody. It's such a great film, by the way.
Oh my God, one of the greatest of all time.
I mean, if you have not seen Jaws in the last 10 or 20 years, like there's no other film to watch. I think it might be like, when we talk about an auteur like Spielberg, like, did he do a better film than Jaws? I don't know. Like,
it's up there. It's
perfect.
Like Close Encounters, I think, Raiders of the Lost Ark. He was on an insane run in the late 70s.
Pretty great run.
Like an insane, almost unprecedented. But
see, this is, I think, the opportunity that I'm going to talk to Chapek about is let auteurs pursue their vision.
We do the opposite right now. I mean, what's fascinating is what happens now is you get a Chloe Zhao who comes out and blows people away with like 2 or 3 straight incredible, very personal. She did The Rider, then she did Nomadland. She's winning Oscars. And then what do? We throw her all this money to come make a Marvel movie. And I like Eternals. She did a good job, I think, of
Eternals, yes.
Of marrying her style with the house style of this studio she came into and this franchise she came into. But like, why are we doing that? Like, we should let the Chloe Zhaos of the world make Chloe Zhao films. Like,
I mean, if they wanted to, like, I know Tarantino wants to do a Star Trek film.
Make what they want, right? Yeah.
But Tarantino wants to do a Star Trek film, right? But I think what people have to learn,
that's not going to happen. It doesn't look like. But I was really hoping to see that.
Well, here's the thing. This is what they have to realize. This audience of streamers is different. They are going to be more open-minded, and the threshold to go to a theater is different than the threshold to watch the first 10 minutes of something, and you're already bought in. You've already paid your $10 ticket to get Hulu or whatever, so they can take a little more chances. What do you think the budget was of Predator? Because I'm sorry, Prey, the Predator film, and then we'll get to...
I mean, I would say, it was, like 50 million or something.
That was my guess. I was going to say 50. We'll look it up.
40, 50. I mean, I don't think they've said publicly exactly what it is, so we're all guessing. But no, I mean, that's the idea. With a Predator film, it's like if you could... That was the whole Rodriguez thing when they did Predators, was, look, come to Austin, we'll film it in Troublemaker Studios in my backyard with all my setups already in place. It's where he made the Spy Kids films and the Machete films and Sin City. And so, it was plug and play. Like, come here, we'll do it on my, studio with my equipment. We could drop the actors into any environment here, whatever. And so, if you can control the cost, that's how you can make money on a Predator film, because they're not going to make $1 billion globally. It's not a huge franchise in China the way that, Fast and Furious is.
This is my theory. They should be doing more of this. Let the auteurs have at it. And then, like for the people who were complaining, like a girl can't beat a predator, this is a movie. And yes, it might be a 1 in 100 chance, but you have to also realize, this is one thing I think people miss, is the predators do not like to come out and simply launch their rockets and just kill everybody. They like to mix it up. They like to fight. So they actually let their guard down a bit. And I believe they will pick their weapon style based on the opponent. And so this is just a theory I have. Because they like to fight so much, they're not going to just walk into every situation and just drop their most explosive weapon. They have like really advanced weapons. They're flying from other galaxies. Like, they could just nuke the entire planet, which they do, I think, when they're done with some of them. Yeah. That's not the thrill for them. So they will ratchet their, approach to a competitor to their ability. And I think the Predator in this, again, spoiler, let their guard down a bit and just wanted to have a little fun, There's
been some debate online about this Predator, and is this maybe like his first mission?
Oh, that would be nice.
Like training. And I think there's the implication is there that, and also a lot of the more hardcore fans than me have noticed that this Predator doesn't have as many like notches or in his braids. Like, a lot of them have a lot of decoration in their headdress, and this one does not, indicating
that would have been something
good. A lack of trophies, a lack of experience. And so I think it's meant to mirror his opponent. Like, the Predator and Naru are both rookies who are sort of getting a feel for what a hunt is all about.
They're both going through their trial. That's obviously what's happening. Yes. That's what I was trying to get at.
Yes.
And although I didn't say it as elegantly. So, because he fights a dog.
Like, right. He's working his way up to, or they.
He fights a dog. A Predator fights a dog. He could have just used all the, guns and lasers and everything else he had. But he literally fights the dog. So I think there's some sort of this ritual thing. But you don't have to overthink this, folks. The film is great. The aesthetic is great.
And all Predator films it's never about a human being punches a predator to death. They're stronger than we are. It's always about the human has to use their wit. Like, Arnold starts out, first of all, he's Arnold. And he starts out with like this huge arsenal of weapons, and in the end it's a log and mud and arrows, and it always becomes about your wit. It's a battle of wits, not strength.
Yeah. Anyway, it's a great film. I can't wait to watch it with my 12-year-old. I do like that we have some films with female leads that are strong and awesome. Why wouldn't we?
It's so cool, so anybody who's different, like we've had so many young white dudes beat a predator.
Well, this is like now the Professor X casting of
Giancarlo Esposito?
Carlos with the Chicken King. What do they call him on Better Call Saul?
Well,
they call him the Chicken.
Gus Fring, but they call him the Hermanos. Yeah, the Chicken King, because he owns Los Pollos Hermanos.
They call him the Chicken King. I just love that. What's like a Salamanca calls him the Chicken King or something, you know, casting him as Professor X. And I was like...
Still rumor. We don't know for sure.
Right.
He definitely has met... He says he's met with Feige and Marvel, but we don't know. I was
like, that's the perfect casting. Brilliant. I mean, if we can't get, obviously, what's his name to come back? Yeah.
Stewart has. I love Patrick Stewart, but he's
got to have Patrick Stewart back. I mean, he's still alive.
We've had the Stewart era. I'm ready for someone new.
You're ready for something new? Okay. All right.
I'm all for recasting. I love the old X-Men. Listen, it's no fault to Hugh Jackman, although they're great. But I'm ready for some new X-Men.
You're ready for recasting the whole thing. Wow, interesting.
20 years, that's time. That's a generation. Okay. Let's do it.
All right, sounds good. All right, everybody, on the phone today is OpenPhone's founder, Darina Kulya. Welcome to the program, Darina.
Thanks, Jason. Great to be here.
What about the situation where you have, you know, a phone number that's a common number, so customer support number, or maybe you wanted people to just be able to call you and generally talk to the sales team? How do you handle that when you have a group number, a shared number?
That's actually one of the super unique things about the way we've built OpenPhone is that we allow you to have a shared number for your team. First of all, when you call into that shared number, you can set round robin if that's applicable, or by default, everyone's phone would ring. The first person to pick it up will be able to have a call.
Ooh, I like that for customer support. Wow.
Exactly. And also, if I'm on a call with a customer, I don't want to be interrupted. There are other people who can pick up new calls coming in. But I also really think what's very cool is that this workflow works as well for text messages. And not only can you just like share responsibility for responding to text, but you can also use this as a training exercise, because the way that it works is that if I am a customer support rep, there is a text message from a customer, I don't know how to answer, I can actually tag my teammates privately on that conversation and get help and say, hey, is this okay to say, or how would you respond?
Okay, everybody, Twist listeners can get 20% off any plan for their first 6 months at OpenPhone. Just go to openphone.com/twist. If you got an existing number, they'll port it right over for free. Head to openphone.com/twist today for 20% off. All right, so let's just talk about Disney's blowout quarter.
Sure.
I'll just give you the results and then get your comments. So Q3 revenue, $21.5 billion. That's up 26% year over year. When you're in that 20, 30% growth year over year, that's high growth in the stock market, and that's a great thing. Media and entertainment, $14.1 billion. Parks, experiences, and products, $7.4 billion. I would rather see products taken out from that. I want to know what the merch actually does, because I think that's like a great way for them to add revenue. Disney direct-to-consumer streaming segment generated $5 billion of revenue with $1 billion of operational loss. No big deal. They're investing in a lot of content there, but $5 billion is a big number.
Star Wars and Marvel shows aren't cheap, folks.
Yeah. Q3 net income, around $1.5 billion, 34% larger profits year over year. So they increased the profits. Q3 free cash flow was negative $317 million. Last year, they were cash flow positive, $466 million. Again, those numbers are so de minimis that I just look at them as rounding errors, given, you know, the big swings they're making right here. And what's at play? They attribute its higher cost of cash flow to, quote, higher spending for film and television content. No surprise there. They got $13 billion in cash and equivalents. They got around $46 billion in debt. And you can assume they're probably using that intelligently to build their libraries and parks and stuff like that. So let's get into Disney's streaming numbers. That's where the party is. Disney Plus global subs, 152.1 million, up 31%, Lon.
Huge.
What do we attribute that to?
I mean, I think we basically been saying, first of all, they're aggressively expanding internationally. They're doing it quickly. They're breaking into all of these markets, and because of all of the stuff that they own, they have an easier time than a lot of other companies. They can integrate with Star Plus in countries where they already have Star Plus, and with other sort of systems that they already own. They've got Hulu in the US, so they're able to do that quickly and get in a lot of new markets right away. So that's definitely driving it. And also, if you are aware of the top 5 brands in entertainment, you're aware of Disney, you know, like there's not really much you can do. People want to see Star Wars shows. They want to see Marvel shows. They want to see Pixar. They want to see Disney animated musicals. And even if you don't care about all that stuff, there's a good chance you care about 1 or 2 of those things. And then if you add in Hulu and originals like Prey, originals like Hulu originals, and then the addition of FX and its library to Hulu had a huge impact, I think, on the overall. Hulu before was like you could take it or leave it kind of service. I feel like they had some good stuff. Obviously, like Only Murders in the Building, a big hit for Hulu right now. But the addition of FX, so you get the Fargos, the Reservation Dogs, the Bear, all of this other very high quality, like premium content that they've been making, and the library. So you get the Americans and, all those classic FX shows. That's a huge bump, I think.
So here we go. I think this plays into my auteur concept. The Bear. They took a chance on that, right?
Right. It's like it's the guy
this
from
is adult
Shameless.
fare.
And it's Christopher Storer, the creator. I mean, he's written on some other shows, but not a marquee name, not a Shonda Rhimes or a Tyler Perry or a Ryan Murphy level guy. And they just,
you know what this is? I think Netflix dropped their playbook and Disney picked it up. Because remember, we were talking like this about Netflix a couple of years ago. We're like, oh, this Orange is the New Black. It's very different and feels different.
Well, Netflix in the early days did do a good job of coming up with these sort of reasonably scaled, compact sort of shows. Even the early Marvel Netflix shows, whole episodes that were very like street level, like a few actors in a few locations. And now everything is Sandman and Lock and Key and Rings of Power and these massive scale shows.
There is something about, taking some chances with some adult fare that could spread virally. I mean, the last thing I can remember on Netflix that I felt like, well, this feels like a Netflix show. This feels like, something really bespoke or personal was Queen's Gambit. And I was like, that you would talk to about with other adults. Like other adults at a dinner party say, hey, did you see The Bear? Oh, Ozark fits in there too for me.
I mean, there's good stuff. Like The Sandman's really good. I've been really enjoying that. I feel like Netflix's problem is almost not even that they're not making good things people would like, but they're making so much. And they're not really marketing stuff. Their Netflix marketing is when you show up to Netflix.com or you load up the Netflix app, we're going to put a thing in front of you that we think you're going to like. But it's not like, let's get the word out to the general public about this show. Like season 3 of Lock and Key, which is a big show, graphic novel adaptation. Joe Hill, Stephen King's son, wrote it. People have no idea the show exists. It's from Carlton Cuse.
I literally have no idea what you're talking about.
Carlton Cuse, who produced Bates Motel and Lost and Meredith Averill. It's got the Amelia Jones from Coda stars in it.
All right, so we're back to the indigestion problem, and what does your brand stand for?
Right.
For me,
and they're dropping millions on that show, and nobody knows about it.
I think the Hulu brand is a sleeper. I think Disney to me says, okay, kids. Hulu says to me, teenagers, adults. And so I know what to do. Like if I want to watch something that is a little more adult in theme, great. I fire up Hulu, and I'm now finding myself going to the Hulu Originals tab and saying, this is going to be as good as The Bear and as good as The Shield, maybe, or as good as Dope Sick. I'm like literally looking forward.
Are you watching Reservation Dogs? It's terrific.
I haven't.
Fantastic. So
is it? I think I watched the first
episode. It's on Hulu. It's in season 2 now. You could catch up easily. 30-minute episodes. It's great.
Yeah, I'll definitely jump into it.
Taika Waititi created.
Hulu TV at 46.2 million, up 8% year over year. The only problem I have with Hulu is, I have 2 homes now, and when I go from one home to the other, if I'm using an Apple TV, it says, would you like to reset your home? You can do this 4 times a year. If I use the phone or I use the iPad, they're like, well, we know you're going to be on the move, so we don't track the IP. And I'm literally like, oh God, do I reset this? And when's my next trip? And then do I have to get a second account, or can I just give you $5 for the second home? So for whoever's running Hulu with this, I understand you want to
Can't you set up a second profile?
I guess I have to maybe get a family plan or something, but I got the bundle.
But I think
it's a little too confusing.
I think you already get up to like 3 or 4. If you're paying for Hulu, I think you get a few profiles with it.
So I got to maybe set up a second profile. They really make it hard to understand.
And then when you're at that place, it's not ideal because then your 2 profiles will be different. So that might not remember you watched The Bear at that house, but you wouldn't have all these re-log-in problems.
First world problem. When you get really upset that the streaming service forgets what episode you're on.
Which of your homes you're in. Yeah.
Yeah, that's when you pinch yourself and say like, okay, I'll deal with it. I'll read the synopsis and figure out what show I'm in. That's when you have reach peak television. Like you can't even remember if you watched it. Like I started watching Better Call Saul again to catch up, and I realized, wait a second, I've already seen these episodes. I just don't remember them.
I've done this before. It's very hard.
Yeah. What is that called when you were in a series? You got series amnesia, season amnesia.
Yeah, I'm sure the Germans have a word for it.
The Germans definitely have 3 words for it. Hulu, 46.2 million subs, 8% year over year. Hulu is the sleeper, I think.
Yeah.
Total subs, 221 million. I left out ESPN. They acquired the NHL rights before last season. They had a ton of games on ESPN Plus. Maybe that explains the fact that they had 53% year over year. They said ESPN Plus and ESPN was a dog, 22.8 million. So you start putting all these together, 221 million. Netflix, 220.6 paid subs last quarter. The flip has happened. Disney and all their assets with subs now has 500,000 more subs than Netflix. I told you it happened, and it's happened. So we don't actually know, or I don't know, Lon, if Disney is counting, or like I'm a Hulu bundle. Do I get counted as a Disney Plus, a Hulu?
If you have ESPN? The bundle, you're counted as 1 subscriber. You don't get one person counted as 3. But they are pooling all of these services together in one metric. Like the direct-to-consumer, DTC is the new number.
Got it. Okay.
Which is all of your services together, but they're putting themselves up against Netflix, which only has, it's just Netflix. There's no, it's like also if you have Netflix Junior or whatever, there's just Netflix.
Yes. I am now, but I think that's intellectually correct because as a business and an investor in businesses, you all you care about is the bottom line, how many subs you got.
Right.
And the flip has happened.
And as it only took 3 years. I think most people thought it would take more than 3 years for a company to surpass it.
I knew it. It was obvious to me, plain as day. Netflix's lead is gone. 220.6 million paid subs last quarter for Netflix. Total subs for Disney's collection, 221.1. 500,000 more. The gap will continue. People
also, you got to remember, too, at this point, I mean, Netflix has launched in basically every country it can easily launch in. There are a few big countries that still... no Netflix in China, but that's like that may never happen.
They're starting to hit
getting there.
Yes.
All these other companies still have a ways to grow. Paramount Plus still launching a bunch around the world. Peacock still launching a bunch around the world. So we may see these numbers are still very much in flux, is what I'm trying to say.
And I think Netflix has a natural audience, right? It has a certain type of content, and Disney has a wider group of assets. And I think Warner Brothers Discovery also has a wider group of assets. We made that J trade. It's been a disaster for me, down 20% since I made the trade. But I'm in it for the long haul.
Yeah.
And we talked about all their different problems over there while they, Zaslav cleans up this mess. But Zaslav also my guy. Although I don't agree with some of the content things, I understand he's being a little cutthroat. They have 92.1 million subs between HBO, which is like your cable subscription, HBO Max, and Discovery Plus.
Right.
All that's bundled together. So Disney has passed Netflix, and if you consider it across all of them.
And I mean, like a lot of them have that natural advantage over Netflix of they can fall back on these massive libraries. I mean, Zaslav has the option. He's cutting shows from HBO Max. He's like, Vinyl only ran 1 season. I don't want to pay the actors their residuals. Just pull it. I mean, imagine the luxury of having so much content like archived. You could just pick and choose what you want to feature this month. And, Netflix is not drawing on a pre-existing catalog. If they want an old show, they got to license it. Otherwise, they got to make it themselves. So
this is the challenge. Netflix does work for hire. They buy everything. You get paid supposedly more money, but I think that has now come back to the mean. And they pay you, you get no back end. No back end at Netflix. Right? That's still the case here. So that's the challenge for Hollywood. And
all of this may change. There was that big arbitration case that the WGA brought against Netflix last month. I don't know how closely you've been following this.
I didn't. Tell me.
The author of Bird Box claimed that Netflix had underpaid him significantly on his residuals, and he disagreed with the entire way that Netflix has calculated how much it pays out to writers in residuals. The WGA filed, this arbitration suit. The judge sided with the WGA, so Netflix now on the hook for many tens of millions. It's like 40 million, it's like maybe 25 million or something like that in back payments to hundreds of writers who they had cheated out of some of what they were owed.
Fantastic. Yeah. I like it. I mean, it's fine for them if they want to try to do the work for hire thing, but I can tell you, I just came up against this because I had done a reality TV show pilot with NBC when a major production house, 5-6 years ago, never made it on air. And I had all this back end. I had rights to the format in other countries. So if they did this reality TV format in Australia, I would be the executive producer. I get $15K per episode or $10K per episode. It was awesome. And they're like, if you hit, all of a sudden you're in 20 countries.
Yeah.
Like Who Wants to Be a Millionaire or something, or Project Runway.
Overnight,
all of a sudden you're getting like whatever it is, per season. They do 20 episodes. All of a sudden you got to check 20 times 15. It adds up, Lon.
You're the Gordon Ramsay model. That's exactly it. Yeah.
And so I just got contacted by another reality TV operation. Again, one of the top ones. I wouldn't say which. And I'm in negotiations with them right now. And some other people have started, knocking on my door. I think a lot because of All In has become so popular. And
reality shows it's what everybody wants because it's cheap to produce. And you grab people. Everybody who watches one episode watches the whole thing.
And I bring an audience with me. I already have a built-in audience after decades of doing this stuff. And I have even more credibility than I did 5 years ago. And I'm, okay on air, I'm getting better. So they were like, all these things you got in your last deal no longer exist. So like all of a sudden I was like, I want this, that. I just said, just give me, I told my attorney who did the last time, just the same thing is fine with me. I think we negotiated a great deal. Just tell them we want them to match the last deal. They're like, that doesn't exist for us or for anybody. You don't get these rights like you're talking about.
It's over.
And so it's really interesting, like with the talent. And then they're just like, well, what if the talent just negotiates their deal directly if it goes to a streamer with the streamer? So if they were to sell it to Netflix or Amazon, then my representation would say, okay, yeah, you got the production house, you have your deal with them. Here's your deal with JCal. So it's really interesting.
There was a long read about this you may want to look up about Kris Jenner and how Kris Jenner moved the Kardashians to Hulu, which was the same thing. It was really two entities needed to move. There was Ryan Seacrest Productions, which made Keeping Up with the Kardashians for E! And was now going to have to move their whole operation over to this Hulu show. But then there was the Kardashian-Jenner family, which was a totally separate talent negotiation.
Yeah, which makes sense to me. That makes total sense.
Right.
To me.
I mean, that's they're the show. Like the people who make the show, you need them to make the show. But we all know why people are tuning in. It's Courtney and Khloe and Kim.
Yeah. So here's the back of the envelope math. This is where it gets super interesting. Disney Plus had 152 million paying an average of $435 per month last quarter. So cheap. This means Disney Plus revenue for the quarter was almost $2 billion by itself. If you divide Disney Plus quarterly revenue by 3, you get $661.6 million in MRR, monthly reoccurring revenue, like we would talk about an internet company like Slack or something. So Disney Plus MRR last quarter, $661 million. Keep that in mind, meaning Disney's ARR last quarter was almost $8 billion, because you times that number times 12, obviously. For reference, Netflix had $2.6 billion in MRR last quarter and $31.8 billion of ARR. That's right. Netflix's MRR and their ARR is currently over 4 times larger than Disney. You have to ask, why is that? Well, Netflix's subscribers base is only 31% larger than Disney Plus. Now, we're talking about Disney Plus, not the Hulus and ESPNs. Right. Yeah. So how is all that possible? It's obvious. Netflix charges a lot more money. They keep raising prices. Netflix global ARPU, average revenue per user, that's another fancy term from tech, was $12 last quarter. Whereas Disney's ARPU was only $4.35. So Netflix is charging 2.7 times more than Disney on average, and they have 70 million more subs. This is Disney Plus heads up against Netflix. Quick lesson for founders, if you have pricing power, you kind of want to use that. And Disney came out very cheap out of the gate. I think I paid $60 for the year or something. Yeah. I don't know.
Already, they announced yesterday that is now changing. So the baseline Disney Plus price is going to remain the same, but you're going to get ads now. And if you want an ad-free experience, you're going to have to pay $3 more per month. So they are starting. I mean, obviously, they were undercutting the cost to get as many people to sign up and get obsessed with their shows as possible. And they feel like now, if you've been in Disney Plus for a few years,
you ain't unsubscribing from Andor after you watched Obi-Wan.
You're enjoying your Marvel and your Star Wars shows. Your kids are focused on they expect new Pixar and Disney movies every month. You're locked in. You're not going to get rid of it now, so they can start to raise the prices and serve you ads.
Disney's going to double the price. I'm telling you right now. I'm going to talk to Chapek next week as putting that J trade on. I think he's going to be hardcore. He's going to double the price over time. And it'll be well worth it.
Keep just like Netflix. Yeah. I mean, they're going to, as you get more and more into it, and they feel like people are getting more addicted to the content, they can keep jacking up the price.
Yeah, maybe you give people some back end residuals. I was talking to one of the Star Wars people, and would say which one, and I was like, they need to give you equity. Like when your show's on, it's such a big show. Actually, I'll just say I was talking to Jon Favreau, and I was talking about The Mandalorian season 1. I said, listen, if you come back for season 2, whatever, I'm taping it right now. Let them go back to set tomorrow. I said, your people need to negotiate that when your show lands, whatever the increase in subs is, you get the first month. because you're the reason that people are subscribing. So they get 10 million new subs.
Favreau is like running the Star Wars universe at this point.
They need to back up the Brinks truck for him.
And if I was, here's what I'm doing.
Here's what I'm doing. I'm Zaslav. I'm going right to Favreau, and I'm saying, whatever your deal is with Disney, when it's over, I'll give you the DC universe. Here's the other IP we have, carte blanche, and we're going to give you kickers and back ends that will make you a billionaire. We want to own Favreau Inc. That's what I would do if I'm Zaslav. I would shake Favreau free.
I would not doubt Jon Favreau. After he launched the MCU, he's turning around Star Wars. It's a crazy track record.
What would he do with DC? I mean, come on. These DC characters are amazing.
That's what Zaslav said. He said he's going to find a Feige and they're going to do a Marvel.
You don't need
DC.
Feige. You got him already.
DC pretty mad. There was just an article in Hollywood Reporter the other day about DC films did not appreciate having Batgirl canceled and being told they haven't been focused on quality. That's
why Zaslav is the guy you want to back. He's a wartime CEO. He's rattling the cage of HBO Max versus HBO production people. He's going to shake the cage for the DC folks. Hey.
He should cancel this Ezra Miller Flash movie.
You think he should cancel the Flash because of his behavior?
I don't think you want to. Did you see that article the other day? Is
he having an addiction problem? Is he mentally ill? Like, this is a behavior pattern that's...
I don't know what's going on with them. By the way, Ezra Miller, they, them. I don't know what's going on with them, but they're definitely unstable. It's an unstable pattern of behavior where crimes in different states with different children.
I think there's 10 actors you could swap out. I think he's kind of like Spider-Man. I love Toby. He's my favorite, but I enjoyed the other two, and I'll see the films equally.
Right. I don't feel like they're
Flash
a huge draw.
Replace them.
At this point, well, the movie's done. The big news story the other day was during this Ezra Miller crime spree, they apparently interrupted their crime spree to go to set and do reshoots on The Flash. Which is very perplexing. If you're on this crime, you're evading the authorities.
He's evading the authorities and making fun of them on his Instagram. I saw the headline.
People are like looking for him in these children he's absconded with, and they're moving from state to state or whatever. But, so at this point, it's just like, you don't need the negative press associated with this crime spree. And we all want to see a Flash movie with Michael Keaton's Batman, but it hardly feels worth it at this point.
I'm going to take the other side of the argument. I'm going to take the other side of the argument. I think that we can, in our minds, when something like this happens, we can separate an artist losing their mind and going crazy and doing horrible things from the art produced. I can, at least when I watch a film. And
I can too. I'm not saying this would ruin my enjoyment of a Flash film. I'm saying if you're David Zaslav and you're HBO Max and you're looking, or you're Warner Brothers Discovery, and you're looking at this purely from a pragmatic business, it's another year. That movie doesn't come out till June. It's another year of this kind of press, unless you're just like, I wash my hands of it.
This would be the power move for him. I would say after you've got all the reshoots done, you got it locked up. Then I'm saying, for the sake of the rest of the cast and the crew that put so much effort into this film, we're going to release it, but we are opening up casting for a new Flash. And this will be his final.
That's going to happen regardless, I think.
But I think making that statement up front would be very powerful. Now, I do want to point out here, fair play. They're saying the Batgirl film isn't terrible, but it's not great.
It's hard to know.
Sorry, was the Batgirl on a crime spree in her real life?
No, Leslie Grace, fine, upstanding citizen.
So now you're left to wonder. Now my mind wanders, right? And when your mind wanders, you fill it in sometimes with maybe something that's not true, but that is a little more cynical, dark interpretation of this, which is like, okay, is there a double standard here? Like, why is that film being canceled and this one not being canceled?
You're not the first one to suggest this either, because there was also a Latina-fronted Supergirl film that has been put in turnaround. And Zaslav has a history of some not so great, semi-insensitive comments. His board is very white. So there are definitely a lot of suggestions on the internet. I'm not saying any of this is the reasoning behind any of these decisions, but you do want to be aware of how it looks and how what you're presenting to the public. And backing this film with this apparent criminal It does. It reflects negatively on every other decision you make, no matter what the reasoning is or the motive behind it. Exactly.
Correct. And the fact that Michael Keaton, I think, is in both for cameos.
Yes. He filmed scenes for both Batgirl.
So this is kind of a bummer because I kind of want to see that because Michael Keaton's my guy.
Of course, we all want to see Michael Keaton back as Batman.
They need to. I'm sticking with my prediction that he reverses the Batgirl decision. I think he's going to reverse it. I think
we'll see it in some form or another down the road. They'll do a Justice League thing
Snyder
with
cut
it, and we'll eventually get to see it on HBO Max or something. There were the initial reports that it got disappointing test screenings or whatever. Like, I don't know if I buy it. It looks everything we've seen from it so far looks pretty good. Brendan Fraser is your bad guy. The Bad Boys for Life guys directing. It sounds like they had something worth releasing.
All right. So, any strategies for Zaslav besides mine for stealing Favreau? If you're advising him, which would be a really great idea, who would you steal? Who would you? What would be you got somebody for the Flash? What would be your advice to Zaslav, our guy?
You've already got Casey Bloys running HBO, who's amazing. I don't think you need to do anything about him. I think you do need. I don't know if Walter Hamada, who's the guy running DC Films, I don't know if he's your guy. I think some questionable. I don't always agree with his perspective. I feel like that's the job you want to give to someone new. I know that this is a crazy perspective.
Let's hear it.
I kind of feel like Greg Berlanti would be an interesting guy to promote. He's the guy that produces all the Arrowverse shows for CW. And look, I get that we don't all love all the Arrowverse shows for CW, but they are what they are because of the limitations, the budget constraints, and who they're being made for, and what they're being made for. They are beloved. And they
have an arc, and they're thoughtful in how they put all these. They're universe creators over there, correct?
Exactly. It's a franchise of shows that he created that all interact with one another with this big cast of people that he sold the public on, and he turned many of them into celebrities. I mean, a lot of those people are sort of semi-famous now because of their CW superhero shows. And your Grant Gustin on The Flash. He's got Tyler Hoechlin as his Superman. And I think they've done Robbie Amell or Stephen Amell as Arrow. I think they've done a really admirable job of launching with very limited resources over there.
You know who they got to nail? They got to nail the Green Lantern. I feel like Green Lantern.
There is an HBO Max Green Lantern show that they're working on right now.
Green Lantern and the Lantern Corps.
And Berlanti, I believe, is working on it. I think he's one of the guys who's on it.
Here's the thing. The Green Lantern is very underrated as a series, as a character. It's very nuanced. There's a lot of lanterns around the universe. It's got a lot of great themes in it.
I think to me, what makes it so appealing is you could procedural it. Like you could do a Green Lantern cop show because they're basically space cops.
Yeah, they're there to create law and order and to protect people. And
and I think a lot of other comic book shows, they lend themselves to these like long arcs and big complicated stories. And Green Lantern is the perfect episode of the week. Problem on this planet, Lantern's got to go figure it out.
Yeah, that would be great. That would be great. I mean, also the villain set in DC is unbelievable.
So, and we barely scratched the surface. We've never done a Superman film without Lex Luthor.
You got the Joker. You got Lex Luthor.
Where's my Brainiac?
Riddler. You got, the Legion of Doom.
Yeah, we really barely.
Where's the Legion of? I mean, they did. If you can't nail the Legion of Doom,
we just barely scratched the surface.
Mixaplex. Who is those
Sinestro?
cartoons?
We got to see Mark Strong as Sinestro in the Green Lantern movie, but it was just set up for a sequel that never happened, where he'd become the villain Sinestro.
Yes.
Gorilla Grodd. There's so many.
Gorilla. Yeah, and then Captain who is the Cold. Frankenstein guy?
Oh, Solomon Grundy.
Like you got all these great villains.
I can't believe there's ever been a Superman Brainiac story.
Yeah, Brainiac's and then you have Black Manta in.
Yahya Abdul-Mateen was a great Black Manta.
That was great. I think they did pretty well with him, right? Black Manta was okay in that.
Yeah, he'll be back. He's back in Aquaman too.
Good villain. Great villain. Like really good look. Good aesthetics.
Yeah, I like that they brought in the weird saucer helmet that he has.
The saucer helmet with the tubes in it. It's like really evocative of like some
James Wan
turn of the century and the lasers. I mean, it's really good. Like if they got the Legion of Doom the formation of the Legion, because they did kind of...
Well, that's what Snyder was going to do. Like, if you at the end of Justice League, you get that teaser where Deathstroke shows up on Lex Luthor's yacht.
Yes.
And they're like, well, we should form our own league. And like, well, that's obviously what they're setting up. But then they never,
God, that would have been great. The Joker and Lex Luthor. Oofa. Oofa. And that would be really interesting if they could figure out who their singular Joker is for this.
Well, now we've got, Barry Keoghan in the Pattinson movies, but then Joaquin is coming back with Lady Gaga for Joker 2.
I mean, if they could lock them in and then somehow weave the best of the Justice League and the best of the Todd Phillips universe.
I mean, that's the thing is you could do, people act like it's a complicated thing to bring all these characters together. The flimsiest of excuses. That's all you need. People don't really care. They're like, it's a portal to a new universe.
It's not like somebody's going to walk out of the film and be like, this doesn't have continuity. Like, I'm
like
leaving.
To see their favorite characters together. I don't think they're thinking about it.
I mean, Joaquin Phoenix.
I don't know if that Joaquin Joker really meshes with the rest of the DC.
No, the aesthetic's completely different.
Totally
different.
But
I'm willing to screen test it. That's what I'm saying. I'm willing to screen test it. I would like to see him interact with Robert Pattinson's Batman or, Ben Affleck's, whatever it is, Michael Keaton's. Yeah. I mean, can you imagine Michael Keaton and Joaquin Phoenix in a scene together?
I think that's what, there was a point where they were trying to set something like this up, where they were going to have the Flash open up this hole in the DC multiverse, and then you could bring in all these other legacy characters. And I think the pandemic and the Ezra Miller-ness and a bunch of other stuff happened that just kind of interrupted that midstream. And now we're sort of dealing with the fallout.
So where you need an iron hand at the wheel who just says, this is what we're doing.
Here's the 5-year plan. I mean, that's what they're doing at Marvel. It's like, here's the 5-year plan, and it's on a spreadsheet, and you can look at it, and it's on a chart, and that, then that, then that. And you know that Feige's got the next phase already.
I mean, Secret Wars, can you imagine if they pull that off? Like, I mean, how many hours long does Secret Wars need to be if you got Fantastic Four, X-Men, and Avengers?
We don't know. X-Men
and Defenders.
We don't know what the plan is still. They've announced, we know phase 6 starts with Fantastic Four and ends with Secret Wars. And we know Kamala Khan, who they introduced in Ms. Marvel, is a mutant. So there are mutants, and they're talking to Giancarlo Esposito about maybe being Professor X. So all indications, but I personally think the smarter plan would be you don't open with an X-Men movie. You do a Gambit movie, and you do a Wolverine movie, and you do a Storm movie, and then you do an X-Men. You know, you do it like they're their own Avengers.
Like they did with the Avengers. You had Iron Man, Hulk, Thor.
Sell people on them. They never did that in the old. They always tried to do the whole team, and then you get like 2 scenes with Cyclops and a scene with Jean Grey and a scene with Beast, and it's like, no. I want a Cyclops and Jean Grey movie, and then bring them into the Avengers or the X-Men.
Well, when they did do that with Wolverine. They understood that character was so strong.
Only after we'd already seen him in a bunch of team-up movies, then they were like, okay, spin him off. But I'm like, no, you just open it, and it's about a guy in Canada named Logan.
Yeah. At that time, the concept of there being a market for 10 superhero films a year didn't exist. They're like, we could do one of these every 2 years.
Yeah, but they knew Spider-Man, and they knew
I don't know if we can't release our X-Men the same year as a Spider-Man film. Like, that's literally how they were thinking. Sony and Fox and Marvel, they're like, I don't know if we want to compete.
Years after that, like Marvel had to go to Paramount hat in hand and be like, please help us make our Captain America movie. And Paramount was like, Captain America? Who gives a crap? Get out of my office.
It's old. All right, listen, everybody, there's been another amazing This Week in Streaming on Thursdays here at This Week in Startups. We always have Lon on. Great insights. As always, follow @Lon's. That's it. And if you have a question for what you should watch tonight, ask Lon. This is what I want you all to do, is you go on Twitter and you say, Lon, hey, @Lon's.
Oh, man.
What should I watch tonight? And you just tell him 3 things you like. He'll tell you 2 things you'll love. You tell him 3 things you like. He's going to tell you 2 things you love. Ask Lon @Lon's on Twitter, LONS. Start it up. Let's start barraging and invading his Twitter shit. Now you're screwed. Now you're getting flooded.
It's over.
All right, everybody. Up next, Molly is going to interview the CEO of a startup called Ephemeral. The company is cool. Basically, they've developed an ink-like solution for temporary tattoos that are extremely high quality, but they fade away in about a year. That sounds like a great idea. Because how many people get a tattoo when they're on a vacation and maybe they've had a couple of cocktails? Okay? Maybe you need Ephemeral, okay? Great interview. Stick with us.
Jeff Liu is the CEO of Ephemeral. Previously was a VP at Casper and a senior manager at Tesla. And I bring that up primarily because, Jeff, A, welcome to the show. And B, what is it about those two experiences that led you to Ephemeral Tattoos?
Well, thanks for having me. Thanks for the opportunity. It's funny you ask. I come from this Chinese-American family where everyone was an engineer or supposed to be a doctor. And I ended up being a car salesman, a mattress salesman, and now a tattoo salesman. And I know oftentimes it doesn't seem too obvious, but I think the through line for me is each of those brands prior to Ephemeral and at Ephemeral, all had visions that really transcended the products themselves. Tesla on the surface is a car company, but really it's about sustainability. Casper is a mattress company, but really it's about wellness. And here at Ephemeral, yes, it's tattoos, but what we're really trying to unlock is self-expression.
Do you have any right now? I feel like I might have gotten a glimpse.
Oh, yeah. So I have 18 ephemeral tattoos. Some are parts of my body I can't actually show you. Well, I guess I could show you, but probably would be inappropriate. But yeah, all ephemeral tattoos, not a single permanent tattoo.
Wow. And so then, well, okay, we should back up. What does Ephemeral do? And has this ever existed before? I mean, this is sort of like the idea of the henna tattoo taken to infinity.
Yeah. So what we've created at Ephemeral is the world's first made to fade tattoo, designed to last 9 to 15 months, naturally disappears at the end of that time frame. And it's applied like a real tattoo with a tattoo needle, tattoo machine, and a tattoo artist. We are truly a first of our kind. It took us about 7 years of research and development out of NYU to actually create what we have today, and 50 formulations and hundreds of tattoo trials before we were able to actually bring Ephemeral Tattoo to market. Prior to us, there has been only painful, ineffective, expensive laser removal or temporary tattoo stickers that last maybe a couple days, maybe a couple weeks, and to exactly your point, henna as well.
Yeah. What is the cost? I mean, is it similar to, because it sounds like the process is exactly the same as getting a tattoo. Does it cost the same as getting a tattoo?
Yeah. So the other element of Ephemeral Tattoo, in addition to creating this made to fade proprietary ink, is we've also decided to launch our own Ephemeral Tattoo studios. We hire traditional tattoo artists to work with us, either full-time or part-time. And really, just like the rest of the industry, the price you're paying for your tattoo really is the service. It's really the artistry. It's really the craft and time. I think a big distinction about Ephemeral versus a traditional tattoo experience, though, is the amount of investment we've made in the actual experience. Anyone who has a permanent tattoo or tried to shop for a permanent tattoo will talk about the inconsistencies in studio to studio, how intimidating they might be. Also, oftentimes, unfortunately, how artists may not be that customer friendly or customer centric. And we really tried to flip all of that on its head. And we felt it was really important to introduce our product through our own studios to continue making tattoo wearing more inviting and welcoming. Where do you have studios? Our first studio launched in 2021 in Brooklyn, and we have since launched 3 studios, second in LA, third in San Francisco, fourth in Atlanta. And we have 2 more locations planned over the next 3 months in the US. So you raised, it looks like, $20 million almost a year ago today. And then this funding came after Ephemeral blew up on TikTok. What is the pitch to investors in terms of the total, potential here, the market? Yeah. I think on the outside looking in, especially for investors, tattoos seem kind of like a part of fringe culture, perhaps niche. My view and the team's view here is that tattoos are really a manifestation of something that's much deeper and universal, which is this desire to take control of your identity, really self-express. And when I think about it, most of our decisions as consumers are just manifestations of this. Your choice in glasses, apparel. Yeah. It's why sneakers, it went from this high utility product to now having sneakerheads and people collecting hundreds of them. It's why sunglasses, we might have one that matches every look. And we really see tattoos as becoming the predominant form of self-expression, competing with those other existing forms. And so when we think about the opportunity, it's automatically, dramatically expanding the number of people who can wear a tattoo. Now, anyone and everyone can wear one. And then dramatically increasing the frequency that you can wear a tattoo. So perhaps who you are when you're 18 will change when you're 30 and might change again when you're 50. And, really Ephemeral is trying to unlock that for all audiences, both in the US and globally.
So how long do they last?
So they're designed to last 9 to 15 months. That variance is just due to a lot of things that are out of our control, which is predominantly your body, your immune system, your skin physiology. So, for example, my tattoos tend to last a little bit longer than 15 months. My wife, who has 6 ephemeral tattoos, she tends to last a little bit between 8 to 12 months. We joke it's probably because she's healthier than me, but it comes down to a lot of other variables as well.
So why immune system? Like, does your body come and sort of attack this ink and try to get rid of it?
Yeah, it's a great question. So to explain how ephemeral ink works, it's probably useful for me to talk a bit about how permanent ink works and actually what makes permanent ink itself so unique. So whenever someone receives a permanent tattoo, the ink has to be applied into the dermis, which is the layer of skin below the epidermis. The reason why that has to happen is because the epidermis actually will replace itself every couple of weeks, which is why a temporary tattoo can only last for such a short period of time. Once the ink actually is applied to the dermis, all those ink particles, they're hydrophobic, so they end up actually attracting to each other and aggregate into particle sizes that are too large for your body's immune system to attack and remove. So when we were setting out trying to create an ephemeral tattoo, we had to ask ourselves, how do we mimic that aggregation, but also ensure something can become effectively small enough to be removed by our immune system? And so we used a combination of dye and bioabsorbable polymers to create that initial particle. They lump up together, but because the polymers all have these degradation rates, they basically start to just break down and shrink, letting the particles become small enough for your body to effectively remove.
How long did it take? It took a while, you said, right? Like 7 years to develop this technology?
Yeah. So the founders all met at NYU. 2 out of 3 are PhD chemical engineers. And they became really obsessed with this question of, why hasn't anyone actually created a tattoo that could just naturally disappear?
I want to interject here and ask you, did any of those people also have existing tattoos that they really regret?
So the inspiration came from one of the founders, Dr. Breno Pierre's student. So Dr. Pierre was an adjunct professor, and he had a student who comes from a very similar background as my own, where he got a tattoo and his parents found out and forced him to go remove it. And multiple sessions later, lost the money. It still hadn't faded away, and that's kind of where the question was sparked.
I knew regret had to be involved somewhere.
Yeah, 100%. And I'd also say, for the founders, it was personally important because, they all come from first generation or immigrant households where, kind of taking control of your identity or being individualistic wasn't really celebrated or appropriate. Dr. Pierre comes to the Caribbean. Dr. Shah comes from India. Joshua Sakai comes from a Jewish family out of Long Island. And all three just kind of felt tattoos were out of reach because they were effectively permanent. Wow. And so, yes, the idea came in 2014. It took a few years to even really get started into testing, because one of the first priorities for the brand was to really develop a safe product. So tattoos are actually not an FDA regulated product, but the team felt it was important to really kind of raise the bar on safety. So they spent the first 2 to 3 years researching ingredients and materials, I should say, that individually were FDA approved before they started to do actual testing, which began between 2017 and 2018. And again, it took 50 formulations to get to a version of the ink we have today. Yeah.
I can definitely see why it would be important to go that route, because of course the first question you think is, wait, your body's breaking this down and effectively ingesting it. Could it make you sick?
Yeah, absolutely. And, our view is if we are successful, ultimately tattoo wearing will become ubiquitous. Everyone and anyone will be wearing a tattoo. And we knew that if we were going to become a household name, become a brand, become a product that was global, that we had to be leaders in terms of safety. And, our view is eventually the FDA will probably start to regulate the tattoo industry. And we just wanted to be ahead of any potential pushes in that direction.
What is the available product now? It looks like all your tattoos are black. Are there colors? Is it all black ink right now? Like, How complex can I get in terms of my full back dragon?
So today your full back dragon would be black. We focused on black because that's the most popular color. It's necessary for any kind of tattoo design with outlines. And we are also, it's easy to kind of assume getting to black is a pretty easy endeavor, but we are constantly iterating on the vibrancy, how deep that black is. And we still feel like there's opportunities to make it even better. But we also have begun developing and testing colors. And we are focused on developing a red ink next, because that is actually, it's going to be necessary for your dragon. It's going to be necessary for a rose tattoo. It's the second most popular.
The heart that says mom,
yeah,
right?
Exactly.
I know. I got you. Yep.
I was going to say because you said that, it's a funny anecdote that I like to share. Earlier I mentioned my mom, well, I forget if I did mention this. My mom growing up always said to me, if I got a tattoo, I'd never get a real job. My acts of rebellion again was becoming a car salesman. But, funny enough, she actually came and got a rose tattoo with us last summer.
You're kidding.
Yeah.
Oh,
and now she likes to show it off to everyone that she can.
That is really heartwarming. Okay, now talk to me about the fading and the fading process. As it fades, does it look kind of faded?
Yeah, so there's two things we think about when it comes to fade. One is consistency of the lines, the saturation of the lines, and then also the change in vibrancy. When it comes to lines, right, and the actual, put more specifically, we want to make sure that as a tattoo fades, that the integrity of the design is consistent. So if it's a rose on day one, it still looks like a rose even as it fades. That comes down to our artists and their ability to apply a tattoo consistently with good saturation. And so that's why it's important for us to hire great artists. And we also do work with our artists on a daily basis to always improve on technique, because a big part of the proposition we want to create in the industry is one of continuous improvement and development of tattoo best practices. So that's how we focus on that. On the other side of vibrancy, that's where a lot of our ongoing iteration is. Our dream is to get to a tattoo that is vibrant for a majority of the fade time, and then faded for a minority of that time. Today, it's more or less linear, although, kind of the way it fades technically happens in kind of peaks, has steep slopes sometimes. But the best way to understand as a consumer is that it's a linear fade. So equally vibrant as it is equally not vibrant.
Yep. Gotcha. I want to go back to the safety question, because I just got a note from a producer about how I guess the EU is going to ban colored ink tattoos. This safety question just gets more and more interesting and puts you in a position where if you can develop an FDA approved, way safer colored tattoo ink, all of a sudden you've leapfrogged the pack in a lot of different ways, it seems like.
That's absolutely right. And we've been keeping an eye on the EU developments, which actually started 10 years ago. There was legislation written in 10 years ago to start to study and understand the tattoo industry. And we really do see that as a leading indicator of what eventually will happen here in the US, and definitely is top of mind. And what the EU realizes, what we learned early on, is that there are actually a lot of really unsafe materials used in permanent tattoo inks. To achieve the colors you see in permanent tattoo inks, sometimes you have to be using metallic materials that definitely your lymphatic system can't really absorb or expunge. So that's part of why we haven't launched colors yet, as an example, because we have been mostly spending our time researching materials. And red, as an example, is actually the hardest color to create, because most traditional inks use metals and reds.
Fascinating. See, you did become like a tiny bit of a doctor. I'm just saying.
Exactly. That's what I tell my parents at the Thanksgiving table.
Exactly. And then I guess the only other question I have for you is about pain. It's not, getting a tattoo is not a comfortable process, obviously. And you're effectively asking people to go through that, not just one time, but every year and a half or so.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think pain is definitely a consideration, especially if you're first time getting a tattoo. And I have to be honest, the first time I got into a tattoo chair, I was really, really nervous. And I guess it sounds a little bit odd to say, but there is, and a lot of tattoo wearers will kind of highlight this, but after you get multiple tattoos, there's something almost therapeutic about the act of the machine. And it almost kind of ends up becoming numbing, right, at a certain point. I will say my wife doesn't notice pain as much as me. So that says something about us. And What I would say is that almost everyone after their first tattoo kind of realizes the pain is perhaps less consequential than they originally anticipated. But it's another reason why we felt it was important to own the experience, to own the tattoo studios, have artists, because we want to be able to comfort clients. We want to be able to create more trust, help reduce that anxiety, because we're very much empathetic of kind of what it is like to get a tattoo. And we think that's a big part of the ephemeral tattoo vision, strategy, and proposition.
Yep. It's super cool. I don't know if you're a William Gibson reader, but there's one in his book, The Peripheral. There's a person who has like, I'm hoping that you will expand into the nanotechnology tattoos in the future that will just like change and, you know, be alive in your skin.
No, that sounds awesome. I haven't read William Gibson, but I definitely will be sure to check them out.
Just for that, just for the description of future tattoo art, The Peripheral nails it.
Amazing.
All right, Jeff, this is super cool. Where can people this is super cool. Where can people find Ephemeral and you?
So anyone who's interested and curious to learn more, go to ephemeral.tattoo. Also, our Instagram handle has a ton of content, educational content at Ephemeral Tattoo. And again, our 4 studios today are Brooklyn, San Francisco, Los Angeles, and Atlanta. And we look forward to being in new cities very soon.
I mean, I'm in Oakland. I'm going to have to scamper. I'm going to have to do this, I think.
Yeah, we're all in Valencia, so it's a prime location.
Of course there. You are. Love it. All right, I'll be back with my tattoo pretty soon.
Can't wait
Jeff,
to see
thank
it.
you.
Thank you
awesome.
very much.
Alex, our producer, just said matching face tats.
That should be a part of the job, right?
Yeah. I mean, right? Like, this is my chance to get a neck tattoo. Oh, I guess the only other thing I didn't ask you is, like, is there any scarring involved? I suppose that's probably skin dependent, but it could happen, right?
Yeah, there's always a potential chance of it. What I'd say, the things that you do the ways that you mitigate any risk of scarring are twofold. One, again, it's having great tattoo artists that don't essentially go too deep into the skin. The second really is in healing. And unlike the traditional industry, we invest a lot of money into providing including aftercare products with every tattoo that comes through an Ephemeral Tattoo Studio. That includes a hydrochloride patch, which basically goes on your skin, absorbs all the liquid out as it's healing. That goes on for about a week. We also give you moisturizer and different sunscreen protectants and anti-itch creams. Those are all things that will help mitigate those chances of really pigmentation, I should say. And of course, we always advise folks on how to put SPF on and protect your tattoo while in the sun.
Where do you get the artists? I know I said I was done asking questions, but I'm never done.
Please keep the questions coming.
Where do you recruit these tattoo artists from, and how do they feel about? I mean, it must be like an interesting shift from being a traditional tattoo artist to being like, now I'm exploring this kind of new way of getting to maybe build a pretty long-lasting relationship with the client, as opposed to this like one in, one out thing. Absolutely.
I'm glad you asked that, because there's so much, when I joined the team, and I started to peel back the onion, I started to see an industry that just had a ton of other opportunities for us to make a positive impact on. And what I should say is that first and foremost, the existing tattoo industry is comprised of, in the US, between 40 and 50,000 independent artists. Unfortunately, the industry, because it started out of a very specific subculture, is actually notorious for being exclusive to people who look a little bit different than the majority. So if you're non-male, if you're gender fluid, if you're a person of color, it's actually very hard to break into apprenticeship. It's very hard to actually develop your own book of business, because most chairs are unavailable to you. And so from day one, we really had a value of diversity and inclusion. And so we really went out and talked a lot about that. We talked a lot about trying to create a studio experience that was welcoming, inclusive for artists, one that we would foster growth and development. And that really resonated. So our artists, if you were to look at them, they're a bit younger, they're in their 20s, they're very diverse. And they're really, as a function of kind of being different in the industry, they're very open-minded to innovation. They're very much looking for the next thing, the next way to push the boundaries of tattoo artistry. And we predominantly kind of use social media to tell that story, to find artists. And we also recruit artists with a different economic proposition. So a traditional tattoo artist is paid on a per tattoo basis. Our artists are offered fixed income up front. We offer, for those who kind of work their way up, healthcare. We offer equity for all artists as well. And we really are trying to enable real careers for our artists. So it's less about the access to the customer, but it's really about being in a home where they can grow and develop themselves as tattoo artists.
Wow, that's very cool. I'm glad I asked about that. Now I really am done, though.
All right. Awesome. Thank you so much.
Yeah, of course. This is awesome.
Okay, everybody, thanks for tuning in to another awesome episode of This Week in Startups. Thanks for Lon for joining us. He's great. If you have guest suggestions, producers at This Week in Startups, they're always willing to hear your feedback. If you're a PR company, we don't take pitches, so don't send your clients to us. But if you're a fan of the show and you have ideas, yeah, of course, we'll listen to you. And tomorrow is going to be a great episode. Howard Lindzen is going to come on and insult me and talk about the craziness going on in the public markets and what's going on in private markets. He's really smart. He's really funny. He's really cynical. He's really old, so he's got a lot of wisdom. So tune in tomorrow. This could be, Howard Lindzen's not going to be around for that much longer, so we really want to get him on the show while we can. Again, he's pretty old. And of course, producer Rachel will have another OK Boomer segment for you tomorrow. Have a great Thursday, everybody, and we'll see you tomorrow.